Patrick Ta is getting some major heat for charging $58 for this foundation. Who does he think he is? Dior? Chanel? And I'm noticing that a lot of the reviews so far on this foundation have kind of been mixed. Like, a lot of the influencers here on YouTube don't seem to like it, but the Sephora reviews, if we can even trust those, seem to be very positive. So which is it? And if you happen to be new here, hi, my name is Sophia, and welcome to my channel where I talk about expensive makeup, and I help you figure out what is hype and what is actually worth it. And unlike a lot of reviews on YouTube, I test out my foundation for at least a week in my regular routine before reviewing it here on my channel, and this foundation definitely surprised me. The biggest complaints that I hear about this foundation is that it is super greasy, too dewy, doesn't set down, and is difficult to powder. And for sure, I don't think this is gonna be for my oily skin girlies out there. This is gonna be better if, like me, you have very dry skin or mature skin. If you want something that's going to look radiant, healthy, fresh, and moisturized all day. The first two ingredients in this are water and glycerin. So you're already getting a lot of hydration right off the bat. Then we also have squalane high up there. That's what gives it its kind of signature glossy look, as you guys can see from the demo. I would agree this is medium coverage, but because it has such a kind of shiny, glossy texture, especially when you first put it on, I do think less is more. I think this is meant to be something that looks very natural, very hydrating, glowy, fresh face. Once again, it's not really something that you want to cake onto the face. If you like something that's more, matte, full beat, then I don't think this foundation is gonna be best for you. And if those ingredients weren't hydrating enough, we also have 3 different types of hyaluronic acid in this. Hyaluronic acid is a tricky ingredient. They included it in a lot of those like skincare infused foundations that have come out over the past 2 years. Most of those foundations actually dry my skin out, because if you don't have a formulation that's occlusive enough to lock the moisture in, then all of that beautiful moisture just gets sucked out of my face and I end up looking like a crusty crab. That does not happen with this foundation. It stays really beautiful and radiant all day. It's actually kind of surprising. It goes on and it looks kind of shiny, then it sets down a little bit so that it's not quite so glossy. Okay, it takes a couple minutes, but it does set down, and then it actually lasts. Usually something that is this dewy doesn't last quite as long, but this foundation definitely lasts. I don't get all these like dry patches around my mouth. It actually sticks to my very dry nose. I don't know why, but foundation never sticks to my nose. It surprisingly lasts, but it keeps that beautiful, healthy glow that you see on my face right here. And while I understand that not everybody wants nor needs this very intense level of hydration, like I said, I do think it's very beneficial for those of you out there who, like me, have very dry skin or even mature skin. In fact, this foundation, it reminds me a lot of some of the much more high-end, much more expensive luxury foundations that I feature quite often here on my channel. Most notably this one from Chanel. This is the Chanel Sublimage Le Teint, the one that comes in the jar. This one is $155. It might be the most expensive foundation that I own. And then also this one right here, the Clé de Peau Beauty Radiant Fluid Foundation. This one retails for $138. When I first tested these, I remember feeling similar to the Patrick Ta, that maybe they were a little bit like too moisturizing, too rich for my skin, if that's even possible. And then winter hit and my skin got super dried out, as it always does when these seasons change. It's dry even in the summer, but in the winter it gets so dry. And that's when I truly appreciated these formulas and the moisture that they offered my skin. I've heard from so many of my subscribers how much they love these luxury moisturizing foundations, especially those of you out there who have mature skin. And now back to the Patrick Ta. I know this is not cheap, it's $58, okay? But hear me out. I do kind of get a similar vibe from this that I do from these luxury foundations. I feel like Patrick Ta is kind of stepping it up a little bit. I feel like a lot of his makeup, I'm not gonna lie guys, like I'm not in love with Patrick Ta or whatever. I feel like a lot of his makeup is kind of overpriced, but I do kind of feel like he's stepping it up with this one, and he is calling it the Hydra-Luxe foundation. So maybe he's going for more of like a luxe vibe. And the packaging as well, it's covered in my fingerprints, but it's very luxurious. Real quick, I do want to show you a side-by-side comparison with these foundations. Starting off with the Patrick Ta, you can see it goes onto the skin. Medium coverage, very glossy, just just glides onto the skin like butter. Also very easy to spread out. I don't feel like it separates. It doesn't get super streaky as well, which is surprising. And then on the other side of my face, I have the Chanel Sublimage. Now this color is just a little bit lighter, so try and get past the fact that the color is a little bit different. You will notice that this formulation, it isn't quite as glossy. It doesn't have as much squalane in the formula. It's a little bit more creamy, and I feel like it goes onto the skin a little bit more full coverage. You can sheer it out, but you also can build this one up, whereas the Patrick Ta one, it has a little bit more of that kind of dewy finish. You can see through my skin just a little bit more. I would say it looks maybe a little bit more natural, whereas the Chanel one is maybe a little bit more perfecting, but still you're getting a lot of hydration from both of them. And then we have the Clé de Peau. I would say this one is a little bit more similar to the Patrick Ta just because it gives a bit more of like a shiny, glossy finish. However, I would say that the Clé de Peau is a little bit more radiant. I feel like there's more light reflecting particles in this one, so if you like something that's a little bit more glowy, you might want to stick to your Clé de Peau. And I know you guys are gonna ask me, do I like to powder this foundation? I have tested it out with powder, without powder, a little bit of powder, a lot of bit of powder, and I think I prefer it powdered just a little bit in certain areas, usually the places where I just kind of touch my face the most. I don't really like to powder here around my mouth because that is where my skin is the driest. There and around my eyes, I don't touch those, but I do like to powder just a little bit here kind of near my nose, on top of my nose, maybe right here in between my brows. And the powder that I've been using is this new one from RMS. This is the Hydra Setting Powder. This was sent to me in PR. It's a really, really nice powder. I recommend using a loose one with a little precise brush and just kind of gently pressing it into the skin. You don't want to do too much. When I used a pressed powder, which is what I like to reach for a little bit more often just because I'm lazy and it's quicker, I think you're gonna have issues with hard pan because it is a more glossy formula. It is a juicier formula. And if you go from your face to the pan, to your face, back into the pan, you're gonna get hard pan, okay? So just watch out for that. I would recommend using a loose powder like this one, and this has been working fantastic. Am I going to ditch my luxury foundations in favor of this? No, okay, because they're all different. They're all different. I love makeup and I appreciate the subtle nuances between them. And we also have to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people like to use Chanel, Clé de Peau, some of these other luxury brands because they do have more advanced skincare, and some people really care about that. And don't get me wrong, the Patrick Ta is marketed as skincare infused, but if you take a look at the ingredients, like they're not all that groundbreaking, like water, glycerin, squalane. Squalane is probably the hottest, most buzzworthy ingredient of the past year. All of the new products have squalane in them. It's not a super expensive ingredient. Hyaluronic acid is in a lot of the products that have come out over the past 2 years. It's good for your skin, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing groundbreaking. I have noticed when I take a look at the formulations, especially from Clé de Peau, there's a lot more plant extracts. There's a lot more to the formulation. I'm not saying that that justifies the astronomical price, but Clé de Peau is known for their skincare, so you know, it's up to you what you want to invest in. Some of us are balling on a budget, and if you like intensely hydrating foundations, I do think that this one, while not cheap, is a really good one to pay attention to, and it also doesn't have the very intense, strong fragrance that you get from the two luxury ones that I've shown you in this video. Before I go, friends, I do want to leave you with two slightly more affordable options. If $58 is still, you know, kind of out of your budget, I totally get it. I also have an alternative here for my oily skin girlies, and actually, let's start off with that one. If you have oily skin, but you really like the idea of this kind of very natural glass skin, fresh face, dare I say, clean girl type of aesthetic, I would highly recommend the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. I understand that this is also expensive. It is a luxury foundation, but this is holy grail. This is an oil-free foundation, but it still gives your skin a lot of glow and moisture. It's mostly water. I know that's confusing. It's not oily, it's moisturizing. It is absolutely chef's kiss perfection. It's one of my favorite foundations ever. So if you like this kind of aesthetic, but you have very oily skin, I think this is totally totally worth the price. For a slightly more affordable option, if you have dry skin, I highly recommend this new foundation from Fenty. It's fairly new. If you follow me here on my channel, you will know that I was also very surprised by this one. Absolutely beautiful. This is the Soft Lit Natural Luminous Longwear Foundation. This isn't going to be quite as dewy and glossy like the Patrick Ta. It's going to be more radiant and luminous, kind of like the Clé de Peau, okay? If you've always wanted the Clé de Peau, maybe try this one first because it's $40. It's not like drugstore prices, but I feel like that is pretty good. It's so hydrating. Just make sure that you don't use too much because then it can get a little bit like cakey. You don't really need to use a lot. And then my other recommendation, which is slightly more affordable right here, is this one from Sweed Beauty. My subscribers recommended to me that I try this out, and I haven't even reviewed it yet, but let me tell you guys, this is so good. It's so good. It's so hydrating. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Patrick Ta, maybe a little bit more full coverage and not quite as dewy. So if you want something that's just a little bit cheaper, just slightly less luminous, okay, maybe it's a little bit too much, definitely check this one out. There's a reason, now I understand, there's a reason why a lot of the shades are constantly sold out. And this one is $48. I do have a coupon code though, so it will be a little bit less. It'll be more closer to the Fenty. And that is it, my friends. I will have all of these foundations linked down below in a shopping guide. I do use affiliate links, so if you shop through them, it's a great way to support my channel. But even just watching, giving me a thumbs up and a comment down below is just as good. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. Tell me if you have used this foundation. Also, let me know what is your skin type. I would love to hear your opinion. It's worth just as much as mine. So please leave me a comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I upload new videos just like this one every single week. And with that, friends, I hope that you see some beauty in your day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.